Welcome back. Nigeria is endowed with large oil, gas, hydro, and solar resources and has the capacity to generate between 13 to 15,000 megawatts of electric power from existing plants. However, most days only about 4,000 megawatts of electric power is generated, and this has reduced drastically in recent times. Over 1/4 of Nigeria's population are not connected to the national grid and lack efficient power generation. The power sector of Nigeria plays a vital role in addressing the low productivity level, thus encouraging sustainable development. Therefore, there is need for government to improve her power sector before it's too late. So today on the program we have
one thing which has been quite consistent in Abuja. We have AETC power Thank you. Speak about her views on this. Welcome to the show, Norris.
Thank you.
And we must always involve the people who are the implementing parties who are involved in daily running of the system. And it's our pleasure to have with us the General Manager, Corporate Communication of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company. Welcome to the show, Mr. Oyebode Fadipe.
Thanks for that pronunciation. Thank you so much.
That's right?
Yeah, it's great.
awesome. Gentlemen, lady, thank you so much for joining us. I'll start with you, Norris. As a consumer, how would you rate the current power supply under the present administration?
So I don't want to make this a political or partisan conversation, but as a user, I would rate it about 5 out of 10, simply because I think that there have been improvements in the power sector over the years with the privatization efforts that the government has, taken a stand on. So we're not there yet, but we're getting there. So I would say about 5 out of 10 for me.
Would you say this is Abuja or this is...
I have a warped view because I live in Abuja. And obviously what you get in Abuja is not what you get in other parts of the country. So there are still millions of homes in Nigeria that don't have any access at all to electricity, to power. And that is a serious developmental issue because if you don't have access to power, you can't do anything else. And I think that power is basic infrastructure in Nigeria. So that is something that should be a priority for the government. So I'm biased because I live here, so I can say half the time, I have power. But there are still homes in Nigeria, like you just said, that have no access to electricity at all, and it's such a problem.
Not connected to the grid
at all.
And I would like to bring you in here, Mr. Oyebode. We typically like to blame people like yourself.
Yes. You've helped our skin to become very thick.
Very thick. Okay, but I would like to know why. So, as I said in the opening of this segment of the program, we have the capacity to generate between 13 to 15,000 megawatts of power. We're generating just 4,000. I believe we're not even distributing up to that. Why is it that we've not been able to get our power sector on the right track in the past 20 plus years?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And I think she's laid a very wonderful foundation for this discussion. In terms of why we have not been able to do it, it will take a lot of historical facts to be able to see all of these things. But having said that, I think the summary of it all is that the investment in this sector has been extremely poor. I mean, he said we have moved from NEPA to PACN and stuff like that. But we've even moved from Electricity Corporation of Nigeria to PACN, to NEPA, which was fused together. ECN and NDA, Niger Dams Authority and Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, were fused together in 1972 to bring about NEPA. That was in the days of Gowon, who was then the military head of state. And then we moved on and on. National Electric Power Authority has become a household name. As a matter of fact, even those who are probably older than me, I mean, that tells you that in the mindset of the customer, of the consumer, there has not been that paradigm shift to bring about a conviction that we actually need a name change. Okay, name change to most people has been a paperwork. There hasn't been that real feeling of the change that they expect it to be. So we've moved from ECN to NEPA, from NEPA to PACN, and then privatization came in some 4 or 5 years ago, and we are where we are today. We have 11 distribution companies. But in summary, the paucity of funds, which is still a fundamental issue today, has been a major thing. Now, again, funds that have been available to government from the little research I had done, has been in a state of dilemma. How do we treat electricity, a social amenity or a business enterprise that we allow the investors, even government itself, to charge the right price? But government had leaned so much in the direction of a social amenity, seeing it as an opportunity to also contribute to the life of the people, which is a fundamental thing, like she rightly said. It's an infrastructure that we need constantly, just like your health. You will find out that when you are coming back home and you just switch on your power and there is no power, even if you were happy coming back home, you suddenly become angry.
Yep.
But switch on your power, you are, even if you are coming back home angry, you are probably more relaxed.
But we blame people like yourself for our anger. So where do we channel this anger if it's not to ADC?
Yes.
Because as a resident of Abuja, if I get to my house and I have to turn on my generator, I get frustrated.
Yeah.
Quite
so
frankly,
I call your company. Why is there no power in my house? I'm paying my bill.
Not just you alone, even me as a staff. I get. I hope I don't get a query in the office. but frankly, I get pissed off when I get back home and, what's the problem again? We've been at work since 8 a.m., 6, 7, 8, you are back at home and you pinch the wall and the thing is not there. Quite frankly, it can be very painful, it can be quite frustrating. But look at it from this perspective. This is a value chain. Gas, our power infrastructure today is skewed more in the direction of gas. About 80% of our power infrastructure is placed on gas. Hydro is quite low. Now, let's not forget the fact that we had a lot of issues with the Niger Delta area, from where we get a lot of gas. Government in the Obasanjo period felt in its wisdom that one of the fundamental things we need to do was to be able to harness our gas resources, which was a brilliant decision to make, because you cannot be flaring this thing away all the time. So government built a lot of gas plants so that we can receive power from that area. Now, ordinarily, hydro is cheaper. Now, all of those periods that we had that challenge with the Niger Delta area, it affected our ability to push out power, because most of the gas-fired power stations were usually at low performance level. So, but luckily enough, we've moved away from that. Now, once gas is having problem, the entire value chain will have problem.
But this was about 12 years ago. I'll come back to you, sir.
No, let me just finish. I'm sorry. Now, you come to transmission as well. From engineering discussions, we are told that your transmission facility is supposed to be twice as much as your generation, so that whatever generation is coming out, you are able to absorb it and be ready for excess capacity, as it were. Now, what has been the level of investment in that direction? Not to talk of distribution. The reason why you come at us, the reason why you throw punches at us in distribution is because we are the main interface between the other members of the value chain and the customers. We collect the money on behalf of others. We withdraw the power from you when we find it necessary to do so, either because you are not paying, or maybe for the purpose of your safety, or some other reasons that may be associated with that action. So you see us more. You don't know the guys in transmission. You don't know the guys in generation. I wish they are here today so that they can also tell you the challenges they have to contend with.
Okay,
I'll take your point.
So I get where you're coming from.
Yes.
Speaking about natural gas, we had those problems about 12 years ago, say 2007 when we moved from Obasanjo.
Yeah.
Now come to today, and Ray, this is for you.
Yeah.
We now have had the normal comment about investment, about financing. And so if we've said, let's privatize the sector, which we always say, power sector, let's privatize, petroleum, let's privatize. Now, even the federal government is preparing, we then have prepared a $1 billion loan request for this sector. What's the point in privatizing the sector if we'll still come back to the same comments about investment?
Well, Mr. Fadipe said something when he was making his comments. He talked about investment. Now, and he talked about the government not seeing power as a business, but as a social, you know, as a kind of a social. Now, we really have to make up our mind. You know, we want power, but we don't want to pay for the power. Until you have a cost-reflective tariff, people are ready to pay for the power they are using, then you will not see money coming into the into the sector. That is the truth. You know, now the tariff we have now is not cost reflective. There is a kind of subsidy on what we have now. Well, not mentioned as in petroleum subsidy, you know.
Yeah.
But it is subsidized because we don't have a cost reflective tariff. And you cannot get any money from funders, from the bank, using the template we have on ground now.
Even with privatization, wasn't that meant to make things better?
Even with privatization, yes, even with privatization, there is need for the government to have the political will, you know, to allow this sector to run.
Which
the
is why
political
they've
will
asked
is not
for
there.
$1 billion. So
imagine now the government coming up to say we are increasing the tariff again. People will shout, we are not seeing any light, and yet you are increasing the tariff. The tariff we have is not cost reflective. And until you do that, you cannot have funding for that sector. That is exactly what is happening now. You know, the man that is generating needs to pay the gas. You know, let's say some few months ago, the government came up with 701 billion naira that they gave to MBET to pay for the shortfall. Now, so that money is almost finished. So they will have to go back to the government again.
So, Mr. Ray, if I understand you correctly, are you saying the consumers need to pay more money to receive electricity that we are not receiving in the first place?
That's the bitter truth.
Okay.
So
yes, you need money to do this business. And if the money is not there, the business cannot go on. You know, there are myriad of issues. You know,
Well,
we have so many issues.
It seems
from
quite illogical to me because I feel like there is nowhere else in the world where the government or the business can demand of the clients or the consumers to pay for a service that they are not receiving. So there's something very warped about this ideology that we must pay more for a service that we are not benefiting from, from a service we are not even seeing. I remember in my office, AEDC, your company, they came to cut off our lights. Why? Because they asked us to pay 2 million naira. We had prepaid meters already. They asked us to pay 2 million naira that we've been enjoying electricity since, and you know, this is a backlog of something. Yeah. And I said, this is absolutely ridiculous. So people are going through this, and I'm just wondering, like, what's the solution? Because from what I'm hearing from you, that is not possible. No right-thinking Nigerian, no consumer would pay for a service they are not receiving. So what are solutions to issues like this?
Now, let's do some little bit of arithmetic here. You have your what is generally referred to as I better pass my neighbor, right? And you want to fuel that gen set maybe with about 1,500 or 1,000, let's say 1,500, 1,800. I mean, 4 or 5 liter keg. and then you run it for how many days? Max 3 days. But you are not running it 24 hours of the day. At best, maybe you run it for, say, maybe from around 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. as the case may be, and you run till about 12 or 1 a.m. if your neighbors do not start asking you to switch it off, so that those bad boys in the street will not come and capitalize on the noise to do some evil around the neighborhood, okay? Now, take that average in a week or 3 or 4 days, 1,500, meaning that in 1 week you're likely to spend 3,000 for petrol. Now, 3 by 4, that's 12,000. There are houses that we are still charging 4 naira today, those in the rural area. Tell me which of the telcos sell their per minute or per second recharge for 4 naira in this country or anywhere all over the world. Tell me.
4 naira for what?
For per unit of electricity. We still charge that for rural areas.
Like kilowatt hour, yes.
Yeah, when you now come into the urban areas, maybe for places like people like you and stuff like that, they now begin to charge about 24, 25 naira per unit of energy that you consume. But you find out that those who are also in the rural areas are huge in number. So how do you want this business to move without the fund for it? For instance, let's be particular about Abuja Electricity. One vehicle alone, we call it a fault locating vehicle, because most of Abuja network is underground. So when there is a fault on the cable, we want to trace the fault and reduce the downtime. That vehicle cost us 114 million naira, one vehicle. A software that we just installed that we call INCMS, Integrated Commercial Management Service system, cost us 2.2 million euro. That's a little below 1 billion naira. We bought a transformer, a power transformer, a 15 MVA transformer is at our injection substation at Bega. We bought it for over 400,000 pounds. Okay. Now look at all of this investment layout. Government, I'm sure, and this is the wisdom in privatization, government, I'm sure, because of the areas that they have to spread their funds to, would not have committed that amount of money in one fell swoop. And I'm delighted that he made a point. You cannot go to the bank with your balance sheet and expect that the bank will provide funding for you when the return on investment is not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
There is a problem in this country today, and I find it very sad to say that most of us go out of this country, we pay our bills willingly. As a matter of fact, we walk up to the service provider to say, I need to pay. But when we get back to this country, what do? We prefer to steal the energy.
But on that note, sorry, I want to say something.
Please
on
go
that
ahead.
note,
yes.
Nigerians, and for instance, there was the CapMate scheme, for instance.
Yes.
Nigerians have paid for meters.
Yeah.
The scheme got cancelled. And some of these users who have paid for meters, people who are ready to pay for electricity, have come back to say, where are our meters? I know you'll say from May, distribution of new meters will happen, but people have paid for meters. Scheme got cancelled. They have their receipts. They can't get meters. So if electricity is available, Nigerians will actually pay.
Sorry, sir. With all sense of humility,
yes.
This is getting very interesting. I hope we are not cutting her off.
Exactly, because we need to let's hear the consumer. Let's hear the consumer.
Now, CapMe was a brilliant intervention scheme on the part of government through Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission to bridge the metering gap. And what was the abiding philosophy of that project? Give us this money in advance, because again of the paucity of funds. Give us this money in advance. We do 2 things. 3 things. We meter you, we give you an interest of 12%, and then we refund the money by way of excess energy upon your recharge, upon your coming to pay. Especially for those who are on the prepaid platform. Now, that scheme got to a point, and it had its challenges, principally again because of funds. At the center of power in this country, and I dare say in any other country, is the issue of funds. Now, in order to move forward, at that point in time when CapMe came in, the discos were fully in charge they ran that show 100%. But again, because of the issue of money, they couldn't roll out the meters at the pace at which customers would have been delighted about it. So